What's going on, Shred Nation? It's Friday. It's Q&A Friday. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard the Dream Machine, the Health Machine, I should say. Your holistic health wagon. Jump on. We're back on the wagon. I'm going to wait for a couple of you guys to jump on here. I know it takes a minute. We got some good questions today. We've got 5 questions because we have some new viewers popping on. Got some new friends, new people in the crew of Shred Nation here. I'm limiting our questions to 5 a week, but if you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. There we go. We got some flexing going on. What's going on? Waiting for people to kind of jump on here. Q&A Friday today. We got 5 questions. This is episode 54 of the School of Shred, the one and only online health academy. The online health academy that's here to help you get mentally, physically, and spiritually fit and shred your old, make better your new, a better body, a better mindset, a better life. It's all about creating more inside of your life. That's the whole goal of this show. And what I do is to help you create more inside your life so you have a happier life, a fulfilled life. Me personally, I've had to work to create a great life. And so through the last 10 years of harnessing a positive mental attitude and taking care of my body and betting on myself, I have done some things that I share on this show, and I want to help you out. I want to serve. So with that said, this is episode 54, Q&A. We got 5 questions today. We're going to get into in a second. Again, September, class 101. You could join that if you choose. You might be able to jump on in. So I got a link here that you guys can jump on. And schedule a free consult call with me if you are interested in becoming a student of the Shred. Okay, and that is my online health academy, where you'll be part of an association and a community of other like-minded students just like you. And you're not going to be a client, you're going to be a student. Okay, and so this is more about education, not instruction. So weekly meetups, weekly assignments, and a bunch of other awesome stuff if you sign up to be a student of the School of Shred. So click on that link and schedule a call. If you're interested, we start in September. So we start September 14th, first class. So with that said, you can find out more about the show at schoolofshredpodcast.com. All right, let's get into it. All right, number 1 is thoughts on best rep range for building muscle. The second question we're going to get into is it possible to burn fat and build muscle at the same time? Number 3 is, what's the most effective cardio to burn fat? Number 4 is it okay to have a few drinks each week and lose weight? Meaning, I believe, alcoholic drinks. Number 5 is, what's your go-to sleep supplement? And then melatonin was the question. So those are your 5 questions, guys. Let's get into it. Number 1, thoughts on best rep range for building muscle. I love this question because I don't know. And we're going to get into that. So what I do know is that there's 2 main forms to build muscle. Okay, you have mechanical damage, which is going to be load. Okay, so if you think about heavy weight, if any of you guys have ever explored like 5 reps, 1 to 5 reps, 1 to 6 reps, whatever, the rest of the world will call it maximal strength, white fast twitch fibers, the type 2X muscle fibers. We can get into all that stuff. I don't really think it matters a whole ton, and I'll get into that because it's all theories and such, but I know the theories. That's the thing. I'm just trying to be honest with this approach here. I was talking to a client about this yesterday. I'm like, I could regurgitate you all of the fiber composition, all that stuff. Does it matter to you if you're not executing? It doesn't really matter. If you're not executing properly, and then everybody has a different makeup of slow twitch to fast twitch. You can get actual muscle tissue extracted from your body, which is really painful. They like pull it out with a needle, and they can see, you know, what is the primary muscle fiber type, the composition you have of that muscle. And you guys, that's going to change from muscle to muscle too. So unless you go get, you know, each of your muscles dissected and looked at, and to figure out if you're a slow twitch or fast twitch dominant, you can become fast twitch over time. It takes many years of heavier training, but you also got to have that brain involved, and you also got to have your execution mastered. So, you know, I talk a lot about the course RTS that I did that really broke me of regurgitating sound bites. And so, you know, when I did that, I was really, you know, you don't go to RTS to learn exercises. You go to learn what's in an exercise. You know, it's like a great metaphor is that, you know, up to the point I did RTS, I was just dispensing cans of pre-made soup in the form of exercises. So do 3 sets of 10 on this. Do 3 sets of 5 on this. We're going to do linear periodization on this. And just throwing out stuff like that, which is basically like handing somebody a can of chunky soup or Campbell's soup. Tomato today, or tomorrow we're going to do chicken noodle. What RTS did for me, and this is a metaphor from RTS, is that it got me to turn the can over and start looking at the ingredients that's in the soup and how to make the soup. And coming to the realization that, you know, the best foods ever come from chefs. And chefs a lot of times don't measure things. It's a pursuit of mastery, a chef, if he's making you a soup. And so when they're gone, say that chef gets older and passes away, you've lost that recipe. And that's the kind of trainer that I'm inspired to be. So there's a collection of all this stuff of what's the best rep range. There is no best rep range. We don't know. You have to explore. You're never going to know what the best rep range is. This is the thing, because I toiled with this for years in my own lifting, because I, you know, you get some certifications and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay. So like, you know, if we do higher reps, we build more capillary beds around the muscle. Okay. So the muscles can get more energy in the way of blood flow. Okay. So this is, if you think of like the slow twitch muscle fibers, I was taught in certifications that it's 25 to 30 reps. But it's really not. It's any rep above, you know, I mean, it's high reps, right? Because even on a marathon, if you go run, the first step you take, you're exhausting your slow twitch muscle fibers, and you're going to get thousands and thousands and thousands of reps in. So if we look at this from a physics standpoint, it's a little different. However, I could start splitting hairs all day long, but I just want to disclaim a lot of this stuff. So it's hard to know. But the two ways that you can gain muscle are, that we know, is metabolic waste and mechanical damage. So mechanical damage is that heavy load that I talked about. Okay, if you're loading a muscle under heavy stress, it tears apart these myofibrils. They grow back thicker. Okay, and when they grow back thicker, they become stronger. Now, you know, traditional wisdom is that, you know, it takes a long time to get the bulk out of these muscles. And so because they're actual fibers that you're duplicating and they're growing thicker. And so the other way that you can grow muscle is called metabolic waste. Okay. And this is also called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which would be higher reps. So as a loose recommendation, say this is over 10 reps. So over 12 reps, you know, 8 to 12 is traditionally going to be called hypertrophy, and then 12 to 15 up to 20 is that sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, where you get that pump, that muscular pump. And what that is your body's pulling blood into the muscle. It's pulling more nutrition in there, and this gives you the visual of more rounded muscle bellies within the session, right? It feels really good. You know, Arnold talks about this. He has that famous quote that everybody always laughs at, where he says, you know, the pump is as satisfying as coming. He says that in Pumping Iron, the movie. So he said it, not me. But you know, I mean, it's a satisfying feeling, right? So nonetheless, but it's different than going really heavy. If you go really heavy, you shouldn't expect to have a pump. You shouldn't expect to be pulling a ton of blood flow in there. You're doing it's just a different type of training, unless you're doing a ton of time under tension type stuff. So anyway, those are the two main ways. So if you were to do a program loosely, if I'm speaking general, and there's no generals, but to this question, I do want to try and answer it. If you do 4 to 6 weeks of a lower rep range, so you're doing say 3 sets of 5 on your basic, or not basic, but your I shouldn't say that, but your more common compound multi-joint exercises like squat, bench, deadlift, whatnot. If you're doing those guys 3 sets of 5, you do that for 4 to 6 weeks. That's linear periodization, where you do a time block, a time period where you're doing a certain rep range, and then you would change. You would go over into say 3 sets of 15, and you could do some more supersets, and you're trying to build up that lactic acid. You're working on your lactic acid threshold, and so that's going to work a little bit more slower twitch fibers. If you guys don't know, you have 3 fiber types that are most commonly talked about. You have the fast twitch fibers, the type 2B or 2X. And then you have the type 2A, which is going to be red fast twitch fibers, which is generally taught as like the 12 to 15 repetition range. And then you have the slow twitch muscle fibers, which are endurance muscle fibers. Anything from 20 to 25 reps is what I was taught. And we just kind of went into how it's going to be a lot more than that. So but you're utilizing all of them at any one given time. And so this whole thing's a continuum. So to get really granular on it, I honestly, over the course of 10 years, I don't really think it matters as much. I think, and that's, it takes a lot as a coach to have to say that. But the truth is it's like, does it actually affect the client, or should we just have cycles where we train harder and we periodize as far as effort goes? Effort for the client. And is it appropriate for that client? And so I like to go back and forth. If I get somebody who wants to build muscle, typically what I do after going through all what's their goal, who are they, what kind of injuries they have, what am I looking for, all that stuff, we skip way ahead into the book, right? And they want to build muscle. What I like to do is I explore linear periodization in the beginning. So just, real basic. So for 1 month, we're going to do this rep range. And then the next month, I try to switch it up a little bit. I'm trying to give them constant stimulus. And this is all after we work on execution. And execution of exercises is every session, by the way. It's not like you just do an execution phase and then you never have to teach the person again how to execute on what they're doing. It's constant focus when you're in the gym lifting. And the reason that is because your brain is trying to compensate and bail out. If you're trying to hit specific muscles, our bodies are compensatory machines. If you want to hit pecs and make your pecs grow, your body doesn't want to do that. The minute it starts to get under stress, if you let your brain wander and you start thinking about your day, or you tune into the music that's on at the gym, you're going to start to use more muscles from all over. And some people think, oh, that's a really good thing. Not really. I mean, not if the goal is to grow your chest, and not if you're compensating to a point that might be detrimental over time and you're not rotating your tires by switching exercises. You start to wear joints down. There's a lot of stuff that goes into exercises that people just miss because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about this reality that there's a lot of physics going on when you're putting stuff through your body. You got to understand forces. There's cartilages that you can't regenerate, and that leads to arthritis if you mess those up. So, boy, I could talk about exercise all day long, but this stuff is important to acknowledge. And so you're always working on execution. Every time you work out, you're working on execution, because the minute you start to daydream while you're lifting weights, you're going to start compensating. And so the exercise will become less effective in muscle building. Right now, we're talking about muscle building. This person's question was about muscle building. Okay. If you're trying to like increase your anaerobic threshold, there's a way to do that. There's different goals. There's a million goals out there. And so this goal here that we're talking about is muscle building. So I would do that for 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe I'd have them do, 3x15s and do some supersetting. So they're sweating. There's a lot of lactic acid. There's a lot of pump. I'd maybe feed them more carbs at that point. And then as they come down, the next month I would have them do, say, maybe 3x5 or 3x10, and then do 3x5. So I would walk these down. So 4 weeks at 3x15, 4 weeks at 3x10, 4 weeks at 3x5. That's really basic type linear periodization that would take you 12 weeks through a program. Obviously, you want to adjust and revise that as needed. And that's kind of what I do with my clients. But that to me is sound programming for building muscle. So if you want to know what the best rep range for building muscle is, it's focus on both types of stimulus that make a muscle grow. Metabolic waste, higher repetitions, lactic acid buildup, and then mechanical damage, which is lower reps. Okay. So that's an awesome question. And obviously, I think I could go all day on that if you've just listened to that. But there's just so much to think about exercise. I mean, the more I've learned about it, the more I don't just go, oh, it's just about just doing 3 sets of 10 on a chest press. You just got to go work. No. There's a time. Look, I'm all about mindset. I love mindset. I love hard mindsets, like mental toughness. I love it. That's why I like jujitsu. But you got to be mentally tough to do that. But when it comes to putting forces through your body, I've spent enough money, and I've been lucky enough to be in front of some of the brightest people in the world when it comes to exercise and mechanics and understanding the human body. That is not the time to just try to go hard. Like, you should understand what you're doing and be very intentful, because in 20 years, you want to feel just as good, right? You don't want to have achy joints all the time and then have to be taking ibuprofen, constantly because you're hurting, or you fall into alcoholism like I've had family members do because they have pain from orthopedic issues as they get older. It's just not good. So that's stuff that, to me, it's unethical if I'm not thinking about that when I'm with a client. Question 2, is it possible to burn fat and build muscle at the same time? Yes, it is. There's your question. Number 3. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to get into it. Yes, it is. You can build muscle and burn fat at the same time. Most of the time this happens with my clients, not just when they're brand new to exercise, but if they've been off for several years and they got body fat. What happens is, if their muscles are in a detrained state, deconditioned state, they'll start to gain muscle. And this is through skin fold calipers, you guys. So a lot of this could be fluid retention in the muscle. Okay. There's really no way to just test actual fiber composition unless you really want to go get some weird tests done. You got to take these things at face value. So what I do is I administer what's called a skin fold caliper test for body fat. And what that is you pinch different sites. Now, doing this Paul Quinn course, he has a 12-point skin fold caliper test, which is absolutely amazing. But anyway, so you do this pinch test, and you'll see that people gain muscle and lose body fat simultaneously their first couple months of training. I see it all the time in clients. And so it can happen. Now, whether it's actual thick fibrous tissue or it's fluid or it's both, that's coming back as why they gain, say, 5 pounds of muscle in a month. I don't really care about that. What I care about is that I see the client, they're improving, their strength is going up, their output is going up, is the way that I measure strength. Their muscle tissue seems to be, increasing, and then their body fat's coming down. What I'm seeing as a coach when I do these measurements is, they're losing fat and they're gaining muscle. And so what happens is, in the beginning, you can do that. And then there's also some stuff that I've seen, as far as like gene expression and whatnot, that if you starve off fat cells, you can actually repurpose them over time into muscle tissue. It's kind of a crazy process. We used to think that fat store, as soon as you create fat cells, you can never get rid of them. Now we know that we can actually repurpose them. So that can happen, but I wouldn't wait on that. I wouldn't hold your breath waiting for your body to take fat cells and turn them into muscle cells. But it can happen. So that's been shown in science, man. And then, and like I said, in the beginning, you can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. As you get deeper into your program, don't expect to have both happen. And so, you have to come to terms with, at a certain point, your goal should either be to gain muscle and a little bit of body fat, if you control your diet correctly in your exercise program and your recovery program and all the good stuff, or to lose body fat. You might lose a little bit of muscle tissue. And this is why people recommend high protein diets. This is why the science focuses on getting enough amino acids to supply your muscle tissue with the aminos that it needs on a caloric restricted diet. This is also why, I could get off on a tangent on that about fasting and maintaining muscle. And they've shown that growth hormone increases when you fast. which is the exact opposite of people telling you you're going to lose muscle if you fast. You're going to lose muscle if you do many small meals a day, and you're in a caloric deficit. That's been shown. And so because you're just spiking insulin constantly and you're training your metabolism to come down. But if you don't eat, it's actually a stress on the body, a calculated stress that raises growth hormone in your muscles and your bones for you to go seek new food, to you to stay strong so you can go get food. Like I've said before, it wouldn't make any sense from an ancestral way if our tribe, so you and I, and like eight of us, right? We're a tribe and we had to go get a big bison and take it down. And we didn't have a way to preserve that food. And so we kill the bison, we eat that bison, we eat as much as we can, we gorge for days, right? Before this thing goes bad, we eat it nose to tail, organs, everything. Well, we might have to go 4 or 5 days without food. I mean, we might get a couple berries or something here and there, but we might have to go a long time and fast for a while. This is why there's been studies that show like growth hormone goes up by like 300% after like a 5-day fast. It's absolutely wicked. And so, on a fat loss diet, this isn't a trend or a what do people call it? Not a trend, but a fad. This is called human nutrition. This is what people have been doing out of necessity. This is how the human body is evolved, is to go and have these feast famine cycles. And so what I'm getting at is that eventually, that was just kind of a side tangent about fat loss, but eventually what I'm getting at is that you want to focus on just fat loss and maintaining muscle tissue, or just gaining muscle. You'll probably gain a little bit of fat tissue, and just understand that's part of the process. If you're gaining too much fat tissue, yeah, there we go. Yeah, fat. Somebody's bailing me out. Good. I think there was a lag on that because I just got that. Fad. Everybody wants to say that ketogenic diets and fastings are fads. You know what a fad is, you guys? Here, I'm going to pull it up right now. Let's actually get into that real quick, because I think that's a really good thing to talk about, because I think it's cute when people want to start saying things are fads. Okay, here you go. Here's a fad. This is from Google, okay? A fad is an intense or widely shared enthusiasm for something, especially one that is short-lived or without bias in the object's qualities. It's a craze. Did you hear the last part of that? It's something that's short-lived and without basis in the object's qualities. Fasting is not short-lived. Every major religion for the last umpteen thousand years has been doing fasting. It's been shown throughout Paleolithic times that that's exactly what we had to do to survive. And guess what happens when you fast? You fall into keto. So keto is not a fad either. Keto is a way of eating. Now, look, I'm not in keto all the time, but I think it's funny because I see a lot of people that want to rag on stuff and go, oh, it's a fad. It's a fad. Dude, ketogenic dieting is the original human diet. We didn't start having all this access to carbohydrates until the agricultural revolution. And there's been 3 phases to the agricultural revolution. So people just like to say and speak in these sound bites, and it's really funny to me because it's like if you actually look up the words that people like to use to describe things, like it's a bad thing, like, oh, fasting's a fad, it'll come and go. It's like, yeah, for you, I'll be fasting my whole life because the science is there, and that's how humans have evolved. So I think a big issue that we have is we eat way too much. We eat way too frequently. And this is why we're rediscovering these things now. Funny how we're rediscovering eating nose to tail organ meats because of the complementary nutrition they have, or fermented foods that people used to pickle. That's actually good for their gut health. People had to do that in necessity to preserve their food. Or, it's just like there's all this stuff we have to rediscover now in this new world. And then people go, oh, it's just a fad. It's not a fad. I just explained to you what it is. That's actual unemotional dictionary there. If you got a better definition than that, then go ahead and throw it at me. But I don't think fasting or ketogenic dieting is a fad. I think it might be a trend right now. It might be popular. I understand that. But at the same time, let's not cheapen what those things really are, because they've been around for a long, long time before the word fad was even a word. So anyway, mic drop. So that's the deal with that question right there. Okay, you can gain muscle and lose fat in the beginning. At the end, or as time goes on, you want to look at just doing one or the other. So number 3 is, what's the most effective cardio to burn fat? Okay, so all the studies, not all the studies, it's a lot of the studies, the good studies have shown that high intensity interval training is the best. You get the EPOC, the exercise post oxygen consumption. Basically, you burn more calories after the workout. So in a 24-hour timeline, you burn more calories. It's also favorable for many other reasons to do HIIT cardio, which is basically the shorter duration but very, very intense. So that it seems to be superior. However, it taxes your nervous system just like weight training does. And so it's something that I've noticed in doing HIIT cardio, which is why I actually don't do a whole lot of it anymore. I think the forgotten about secret, you guys, is just general movement, lots of movement. So step trackers, I think, that's what you need to succeed right there. So I think that's the best form of cardio, is just moving more low level activity spread throughout the day, not just all in one huge bolus, but try to move and leverage your lifestyle to where you're moving throughout the day. This doesn't tax your nervous system. It helps relax the body. When you breathe through the belly, you increase vagal nerve tone, and that helps get you into a parasympathetic rest and digest type state. And so it actually de-stresses your body, which I like, because I think a lot of us are too stressed, whether that be mental or physical. We have a lot of stressors going on. And I think walking more and general movement could help us out. So I've actually, the studies will say, like, HIIT superior. It's legit. HIIT, there's a lot of cool stuff from Dr. Jacob Wilson. He's done some cool studies on, I think they do the Wingate bike, where they have people do 7-minute sprint cycles and then stay fasted. And then 4 hours later, I think they do another 7-minute thing. And it's the second cardio session, spikes the fat burning potential to an insane degree. But anyway, you got to think about that. What on paper would be best, and then what in application would be best. I've found that if I'm doing HIIT cardio and I'm lifting, I got a couple weeks before my central nervous system gets overtaxed, and then I start to run into a lot of those symptoms I talked about yesterday, which is low energy, low motivation, high hunger. You get very hungry if you're exercising really intensely. That makes it hard to stay on course with your nutrition plans. And because there's this whole thing of, you want to exercise enough and burn some calories, but if you exercise too hard, it makes you want to overeat, and then you start to justify overeating, and so you can run into this pit. So that's where HIIT cardio can be dangerous, but it's also legit, man. Sometimes I have a spin bike, and I'll do 15-minute sprints where I do 15 seconds all out, 45-second kind of jog, and that empties the tank. Legs are pumped, but I don't do those every day because I know what will happen. I've done it before. I've prepped for photo shoots doing that before, and it just exhausts you, and it can lead to binge eating. It leads to you being super hungry. So you got to test it, though. Test this stuff. Maybe do 1 or 2 or 3 of those guys, and then the rest of the days focus on a step count. So I focus on step count most of the time now. I like using that cardio time to actually pull out a laptop and learn something or listen to something. So anyway, to each his own. You got to figure out what works for you. Number 4, is it okay to have a few drinks each week and lose weight? Yeah, within reason. It depends on a few things. All right. So just as with anything, it depends. So it depends on how much alcohol you're drinking. It depends on your current metabolic condition. So, are your hormones clogged right now? Another great book that I've read is called The Calorie Myth. And there's a lot of this talk of, clogged hormones, which is, when people are in a compromised state nutritionally, they can't digest, assimilate, absorb nutrition the same way that somebody who's really healthy and on point can, right? You visually see that people look differently and healthy. Why would we not think that organs are functioning differently too, which is causing a different response to the foods we eat? So with that said, if you're in a good metabolic condition, and a lot of clients that I have, if they're trying to lose some weight, but I'm like, yeah, you can have a glass of wine a couple times a week, or a beer if you want. Beer is going to be a little more problematic because, some of the hops and stuff in there, but, I tend to gravitate towards a deep red wine that's not real sugary, or those White Claws. Those things are like really popular right now, but those are low in carbs and low in a lot of extra stuff being added to them. It's just kind of the alcohol calories. Alcohol, 7 calories per gram, and it kind of goes to the front of the line when you consume it. So your body has to burn it off because it can't store it. So I mean, it can kind of blunt the metabolic response for a minute, but like a glass of wine with dinner actually can keep your blood sugar stable, which is kind of nice. So anyway, I just depends on how much. If you're having 1 to 2 drinks a night, I don't think I would ever recommend that. I don't think a glass of wine every night would hurt with your dinner. I don't personally do that though. I have probably a glass of wine with my dinner like maybe 2 nights a week now, and that's actually up from what I used to do, but it's because I've been testing it. I go, oh, I think this is actually kind of beneficial, and it can increase GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that helps you relax and rest. So I don't drink like I did when I was younger, and so it's a little different response. It's a nice relaxing response with my significant other, and we talk and laugh and have a good time at dinner. So that's kind of how I use it. So if you're using it like that and you're in good metabolic condition, yeah, I mean, there's no reason you can't lose weight and consume some alcohol. So anyway, that's a good question. I think that's a lot of people want to know that. I wanted to know it for a long time. Binge drinking on the weekends is not going to help you. If that's your question, the reason you asked that. Last one, you guys, we're going to wrap up. What's your go-to sleep supplement? Melatonin? No, I actually don't use melatonin. I think I've read some stuff where like melatonin, they say it works for like 50% of people. If it works for you, that's great. But realize it's not melatonin. It's stuff that actually helps you produce melatonin. So what I like to do is magnesium. So magnesium, very important nutrient. I like to get a complex of it, so it's coming from multiple sources. So I'll do a magnesium supplement. Magnesium can help increase neurotransmitter production in the gut. That neurotransmitter production can help create melatonin, which eases you. It can also up that GABA that I was just talking about that also helps relax you. And then like acetylcholine and stuff like that, so which slows the heart rate. So I try to go after it from that regard. I try to get neurotransmitters up and get the building blocks spiked up that will create things like melatonin and decrease cortisol. If you want to increase your melatonin production naturally, stay away from blue light at night. That increases cortisol. It's gonna blunt the melatonin response. So this is a lot of why I talk about all this other stuff. I just did a big guide for my clients last week, but at the School of Shred, I go into this stuff and it might seem like hippy dippy. I got some people that laugh when I say hippy dippy, but it might seem hippy dippy. And I'm saying, hey, do some blue blockers before bed, meditate, keep the light, no screen time an hour before bed. Try to limit your screen time 2 hours before bed and turn the brightness all the way down. People go, oh, does it really matter? Well, it's like, yeah, because it's adjust your hormones. You're prepping for bed. You're getting melatonin higher. So that way, that 7 to 9 hours that you're getting at night is not just 7 to 9 hours of, interrupted sleep where you're up and down throughout the night, which has been shown to put you at risk for heart disease. That 7 to 9 hours now has been leveraged and weaponized to be very, very beneficial to you if you take it seriously. And supplements can help that. I've noticed that magnesium's helped. And I usually am not a guy that's saying you need to take a ton of supplements, but that, that helps a lot. I also do vitamin C mega dosing before bed. Do not do that too quickly or you will poop your pants. You had to titrate up. So you want to start for like a week at like 1,000 milligrams, maybe, or 500. If you really want to be safe, you might be like scared now to even do vitamin C. But your adrenals are the number 1 storage site for vitamin C. So it's good to get a good amount of vitamin C in. I eat a primarily carnivorous type diet with homegrown vegetables. And I do eat carbs. I do eat sweet potatoes. I do eat, fruits and stuff like that. But, I focus mostly on eating good meat. And so there's not a ton of vitamin C there. So I like to do the vitamin C mega dosing. And I notice when I do the magnesium and the vitamin C, my sleep is actually better. And I didn't notice that until I started doing it and then not doing it. So, okay. So anyway, that's kind of the deal there. So I don't use melatonin. I use stuff that actually tries to increase melatonin. There's nothing wrong with melatonin. If it works for you, go for it. So those are my go-tos. So anyway, guys, that's episode 54. All right. I hope you guys are still with me here. I hope everybody learned something today. Go ahead and throw a flex emoji in the comments if you guys are with me, if you guys are watching right now. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments right now, and maybe I'll answer them if anybody wants to participate. But other than that, join Class 101. If you're interested, click on the link that I'm going to share here to get on a call. If you're interested in becoming a student at the School of Shred Online Health Academy, the very first online health academy that takes you out of the position of being a client and puts you in the position of being a student to relearn and rediscover what holistic health and fitness is. And that's through the 5 different modules that I teach. The 5 different modules that I teach and that you will learn and have assignments in are spirit, habitat, recovery, exercise, and diet. So we're hitting all of them. Something that I feel like is could really make a massive impact in people's lives is addressing the unit from a whole. And it's taken years to come up with this concept. So with that said, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you, Shred Nation. Love all you out there. Go hard this weekend. Cook a nice piece of meat of some sort. It's going to be nice out. It's the summertime right now. Go enjoy a nature walk, do hobbies, be with loved ones, share love and positivity with the world. And with that, I want you guys to stay strong and healthy in body. Stay relentless and energized in your spirit. And stay determined in your pursuits. That spells shred. Now go shred the day and get better in every way. Until next week, class dismissed.